We have some very important breaking news. Thousands of messages were leaked from a Signal group chat showing young GOP leaders praising the mustache man and joking about torturing their political opponents. In this video, I will be sharing some of these horrible text messages that they sent, as well as the names of the people who sent them, because they deserve to get exposed. Here's a little overview of some of these text messages that they sent. That one stands out to me, as well as that one. You guys should pause right here and take a look. Just look at how these sick individuals refer to black people. I'm not even going to read that. They also joked about putting their political opponents in gas chambers. And they talked about SAing their enemies and driving them to take their own lives. They even praised Republicans who they believe supported that. William Hendricks, the Kansas Young Republicans vice chair, repeatedly used these type of words and variations of the slur more than a dozen times throughout the chat. Bobby Walker, the vice chair of the New York State Young Republicans at the time, referred to SA as epic. Peter Genta, who at the time was the chair of the same organization, wrote in a message in June that everyone that votes no is going to the gas chamber. This is Peter continuing on, saying, "I'm going to create some of the greatest psychological torture methods known to man. We only want true believers." Joe Maligno, who previously identified himself as the general counsel for the New York State Young Republicans, wrote, "Can we fix the showers? Gas chambers don't fit the mustache man's aesthetic." Annie Kakete, New York's National Committee member, said, "I'm ready to watch people burn now." This is just a fraction of the Telegram chats obtained by Politico spanning more than 7 months. It's an unfiltered look at how the new generation of GOP activists talk when they think no one's listening. Many of these chat members already work inside of the government or politics, and one of them is even a state senator. The group chat members spoke freely about the pressure to cow to Trump to avoid being called a rhino. They also talked about the love for 1930s Germany within their own party and Trump's attempts to suppress the documents relating to Jeffrey Epstein. I'm going to end off with a quote that I think everybody needs to hear right now. When somebody shows you who they are, believe them.
This Republican mom and wife is finding out the hard way. Samantha is a military mom from Virginia. She's got 2 medically fragile kids and a husband with PTSD from his time in Afghanistan. They also live paycheck to paycheck. You've got all that going on, and you still voted Republican? She called Speaker Mike Johnson on live TV, begging him to bring the House back and pass a bill to pay the troops. She said, "My kids could die." But Mike Johnson, he's flat out refusing. He blames Senate Democrats and says it's not his problem, even though House Republicans already passed a bill weeks ago to keep military paychecks coming. The truth? It's Republicans, his own party, who are holding this up. And Speaker Mike Johnson already knows that. They're just a bunch of dishonest crooks and want to lie to their own supporters. They're the ones screwing over military families like Samantha's by playing political games instead of paying the troops. You seriously expected the party of F your feelings to care about your feelings now? Mike Johnson and the Republicans could fix this, but they won't, and military families like Samantha's are waiting, broke, and scared. This is exactly what happens when you put your trust in the Republican Party. Samantha helped vote them in, and now she's realizing that her and her family are disposable. Good luck to you and your family, Samantha. I really hope you guys get the help that you need. But next time, you guys should vote for the party that actually wants to help you. And just a little hint, it's not the Republican Party.
Mike Johnson keeps telling us that he's done his job when it comes to the government shutdown, but that's a lie. Johnson claims that he won't bring the House back in session until the Senate acts. He acts like this absolves him of the responsibility, but the truth is, well, this is all just a ploy to dodge accountability. He says that he passed a clean funding bill weeks ago, and now it's entirely up to Democrats to reopen the government. But that's false, because he won't bring the House back in session, so even if the Senate passed anything, they couldn't go to reconciliation, and they couldn't actually send the law to the White House. So by keeping Republicans out of the House, he's blocking any negotiations, and he's blocking any chance at reconciliation. He also says that Democrats are not serious negotiators, but meanwhile, Republicans, they're radio silent. They've been sent home and told to stay out of the public eye, cancel votes, refuse to hold Congress in session. That's dereliction of their duties. That's not a strategy. So who is responsible for the shutdown? It's obviously the Republicans, because they're refusing to do their job. They haven't governed this whole year. They haven't legislated this whole year. They've played optics and culture politics. Nothing else. What looks good for the camera and what speaks to my base, not what matters to the United States citizen. And Mike Johnson's whole line of he can't act until the Senate acts is just him dodging responsibility once again. Don't let him get away with it, because millions of federal employees, military members, and veterans are being held hostage with essential services cut, pay frozen, and them still continuing on with their lives with bills to pay. And that's the cost of his lies. Millions of Americans are going without pay in essential services because Mike Johnson is dodging responsibility.
The truth will set you free does not include the truth being easy. They are lying about the most obvious of things. They are lying about health care, paying for illegal immigrants. It is an out and out lie, and they repeat it. They are lying about not being able to swear in an elected representative. They are out and out lying. They are lying about the causes and effects of violence. Abject, infuriating lies, and our mainstream media is failing us. They platform them, but the most pushback they offer is questioning them. At no point do they actually fact check them and say that's a lie. And because of your lie, you are not welcome to move on until you address that lie. And if you're unwilling to see it's a lie and comment on that lie, you're not welcome on the show, because that doesn't drive profits. The Vice President of the United States knows the talk shows will call him every time, regardless of his lies. They'll platform his lies because that's how they make their money. Our system is not designed to confront abject, immoral lying. Full speed, full stop. It's infuriating. And the truth will set us free. But the truth is not necessarily easy. It is a constant, day-to-day, staying grounded in what we know to be true. That America does not lie on the path of violence, of state-sanctioned violation of private rights. That our path does not lie on putting people in cages. That our path does not lie upon lies. That is our truth. We will hold firm to it. It will not be easy, but the truth will set us free.
Have you heard much about the new MAGA Jesus lately? I was just thinking about it, and I realized I haven't heard much about Charlie Kirk lately. Ironically enough, right after I recorded this video, I heard on the news that it's Charlie Kirk's birthday today, so they probably are going to be shoving him in our face yet again. And I was thinking, something spurred my thought on this morning about one particular piece of evidence that they have claimed that they have and that they know all about. Makes absolutely no sense to me, which I'll explain in a minute. But as to not hearing much about Charlie Kirk anymore, does anyone find that a little odd? I mean, the only thing I've really heard about him in the last few weeks are, we get stories now and then of some friggin' MAGAs in some state wanting to, force everyone to honor Charlie Kirk. Like in Oklahoma, I think it was, they had a bill. Maybe it's been signed into law. I'm not sure of the state of it, but they wanted to require every public college or university in the state to have some sort of a Charlie Kirk memorial statue, like in the middle of campus somewhere. And they were dictating in the legislation exactly what it has to look like and all these requirements. And then Florida, I think, had something similar. I don't remember the specifics of that. I don't know. Maybe they were trying to force every public college or university student to get a Charlie Kirk tattoo or something. I don't know. But they do these kinds of things. But that's really all I've heard about it lately. I certainly haven't heard anything about the investigation. Maybe I've just missed it. I don't know. But one thing I was thinking about this morning, and I haven't talked too much about the Charlie Kirk stuff, because I don't have any answers. I have a lot of questions, a lot of stuff.
Donald Trump also saying what is taking place now in Israel is something that should have happened under Obama or Biden, and they couldn't do it. Trump conveniently ignoring the 4 years between Obama and Biden during which he was president.
A year ago, the United States of America was a dead country Now it's the hottest country anywhere in the world. It is the hottest. There's no question about it. In fact, if you go back a year ago, before the election, although once we had November 5th, we became hot because people got it. I would say November 5th was a time that we became really hot. But once you go back a couple of years, if I were in charge and the country was doing what they were, nobody was going to ask me to speak. Nobody asked Joe Biden to come up and speak, I guarantee you that. And if they did, he would have turned them down, I promise you. He didn't speak. He didn't speak, and he didn't speak well. But all of the countries in the Middle East, it could have, what we're doing now, it could have happened a long time ago, but it was strangled and set back almost irretrievably by the administrations of Barack Obama and then Joe Biden. It was.
And what's interesting about that is that Trump again seems completely unaware of his own presidency. What happened between Obama and Biden? Well, Trump was president for 4 years, and whatever failed accomplishments he's pointing to Obama and Biden for, he should also apply to himself. Now, I do think it's important. I know most of you get this. This deal does not resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I know you all know that, but just to sort of like get it on the record, we still don't have resolution with regard to a durable Palestinian state. I continue to say that under Netanyahu, we are not going to seriously get long-term peace because it is not in his interests. We do not have the blockade resolved. We don't have the status of Jerusalem resolved. Nothing has been resolved. Hopefully these immediate hostilities are really coming to an end. But there is a long way to go here. And Donald Trump, of course.
Apparently, Donald Trump is concerned about things disappearing. It's just not freedom or democracy or voting rights or freedom of religion or freedom of speech or freedom of the press. He's not so concerned about black and brown and trans people disappearing. No, none of that really bothers him, but his own hair disappearing, that is a bridge too far. He took to Truth Social last night to complain about the photo that they chose for his cover, in which they were eager to lick his boots in providing him flowers for the Israel-Hamas peace deal, which, by the way, was on the table when Joe Biden was president, but Bibi rejected that deal because he preferred handing the political victory to his good buddy Trump. Now, I just want to call out again that even when he gets a flattering story published about the thing that he says earns him the Nobel Peace Prize from now until eternity, he can't just accept the compliment and move on. And on this point, he and I agree. That is a very unflattering photo, and neither of us would have liked to have seen Trump from that angle.
While the U.S. government is shut down right now, it's one thing to have the president leaving the country and flying to other countries, as Trump did today. It's another thing to have the U.S. government funding another country's government while we are not funding ours. Nevertheless, Trump's Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, just sent $20 billion, just sent 20 billion U.S. taxpayer dollars to go fund the government of Argentina, to go bail out their currency for some reason. Argentina's currency has dropped 27% in value already this year, but we're buying $20 billion worth of it. Why is that? That doesn't seem like a good bet. Don't worry, it's just a loan. Right, think we're going to get that loan back? I don't know. The IMF has had to bail out Argentina 23 different times. Argentina owes the IMF more money than any other country on earth. The most recent IMF bailout was just in April, and even that wasn't enough to keep their economy and their peso from continuing to tank. But apparently now it's us. Scott Bessent, Trump's Treasury Secretary, nevertheless just gave Argentina $20 billion of your money to prop up the government of Argentina, even though we have almost no trade with them. And if their economy or their currency collapses, that would be sad for them, but it would likely have no effect on us. This is not something we're doing to protect ourselves. It is just a favor to them. Trump and Scott Bessent have given them $20 billion US dollars out of the U.S. Treasury, a $20 billion bailout that already appears, quite possibly, to be lost down a deep, dark well. Because even after Trump gave them this $20 billion infusion within the last few days. CNBC reports today that markets today reacted in such a way that indicates that $20 billion might not be enough. Argentina might tank anyway. And that presumably best case means that we'll never get our $20 billion back. Worst case, it means they're going to keep giving them even more money that we'll never get back. Why, when our own government is shut down, are we giving another country $20 billion to keep their government going? When again, we have no links to their economy, their risk has no connection to risk in our country. Why are we doing that? I don't know. But there are at least 2 American billionaires who are very close to Trump Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. And these billionaires have made big bets on the health of Argentina's economy. So, I don't know if you had any plans for that $20 billion. It's your money. But for these rich guy friends of Scott Bessent, including Scott Bessent's former mentor on Wall Street, they stand to make a lot of money if the U.S. taxpayer starts propping up that failing country. And they stand to lose a lot if we don't, and that country fails. So there goes $20 billion of your money to buy nearly worthless pesos in Buenos Aires.
The One Big Beautiful Bill authorized an increase of $170 billion for immigration enforcement. In over a series of videos, I'm going to try and explain to you just how much money that is. I mean, it's the federal government. Those dollar amounts, it's like monopoly money, billion, 100 billion, 1 trillion. How do you convey just how much money Congress allocated for immigration enforcement relative to the laws being broken and the size of the population? That is what I will attempt to do. In my first video, this video, I will try to compare it to law enforcement and other federal law enforcement spending. It is a little complicated, so you're going to have to stay with me, but I'm going to try and use as many visual cues as possible. First, let's talk 170 billion. That number comes from the American Immigration Council and their report on immigration and border-related spending provisions in the One Big Beautiful Bill, and they come up to a total amount of $170 billion. But what they explain in the report is even that's not that straightforward, because some of that money is going to go to increase the annual budgets of agencies like ICE or Customs and Border Patrol. But a lot of the spending was one-time provision that has a timeline for allocation. What on earth does that mean? For example, the One Big Beautiful Bill has construction, maintenance of a border wall, Custom and Border Patrol checkpoints, and Custom and Border Patrol facilities, $51.6 billion. They have 4 years to spend that money. So by the end of 2029, all the money that has been allocated for the construction and maintenance of a border wall has to have been spent, that $51.6 billion. Another example is detention capacity expansion. That's $45 billion. Again, that has to be spent by the end of 2029, so they have about 4 years to spend this money. So you have some money going to immigration enforcement that's about increasing the size of the agencies, and some money that's going to specific items like detention capacity. So I tried to put this in context by annualizing the 170, right? You have $170 billion up here in the One Big Beautiful Bill for immigration enforcement. If you just divide that over the 4-year period, that's $42.5 billion a year. Some of that, I mean, I don't think they'll actually spend $42.5 billion a year. That's just to give you, like, to annualize this amount. They just spent $42.5 billion a year for immigration enforcement. Now, the budget for ICE was not zero leading up to the One Big Beautiful Bill. In fact, it was already the largest component. The single largest component of all federal law enforcement was already immigration enforcement at around $34 billion. So if you add the money that was already being spent with the money that the One Big Beautiful Bill allocated, you come out to $77 billion a year. Now remember, this is for context. I'm trying to put this 170 into a way we can compare and understand how large it is. Well, the Cato Institute, a devoutly libertarian think tank, made the argument that if you look at all federal law enforcement spending, immigration enforcement and border enforcement, it was already